hear me?
Perfectly. Can you hear me?
Yeah, certainly can, mate. I love the tats.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, awesome, man. Sorry, I was just doing some final adjustments. I've had this burst of energy because we've got a new guest judge. I love the background, by the way. This is perfect. This is the best setup so far.
Is it? Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, so you get extra points for that.
Nice.
But, go right ahead if you need a drink or something. That's fine.
Cheers.
Cheers to you. I'll raise a glass of orange juice.
Ready? There you go.
We just confirmed. We'll start all about your film in just a sec. We just confirmed a new guest judge, and mate, it's so exciting! It's so exciting.
I feel like you guys, your list is, or like you've got some surprises down the pipe here. This is pretty cool, man.
Yeah. So you saw the Vance Burberry Judge Awards? So
yes, yeah, and that fella's been doing work with everyone under the sun.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've got a 45-minute podcast with him, an audio podcast, because he's based in LA, teaching underwater cinematography theory at the moment. Because he just worked with Garth Brooks on a music video. So it was like, wow, he's being directed by Garth Brooks in an earpiece whilst he's underwater.
That's amazing. I'm a massive country music fan too, so that's huge.
Well, there you go. Yeah, he was talking about that. Working with Garth and all, because Garth's like the biggest, isn't he now?
Oh, he's legendary, man. Yeah, he's historic. As far as like the 80s, 90s, and even modern country, he's like the godfather of country.
So we're incredibly proud to have him on board. And one of the reasons I saw him, because I'm such a big Blackmagic fan of the camera,
right?
The company as a whole in terms of their approach and their shipping dates though, which is shocking. But so I contacted him and he was like, yeah, great, send me over a few films and I'll judge. I said, great. And then we chatted for 45 minutes. The coolest thing though that he worked on the restoration of Jaws.
Oh, that's amazing.
And he worked on, 1931 Dracula, the restoration of that. So nice. I'm like, he was telling me on the podcast, the audio thing will be released this week, hopefully. He was telling me about handling the original negative or the negatives from those prints. I was like, oh my God. Can you imagine the responsibility coursing through your veins? Yeah,
you just think about it. It's like, okay, this is like a life or death situation right now. I've got a lot of responsibility. That'd be quite nerve-wracking, but also incredibly an incredible honor,
Yeah. So the most exciting thing was like watching films like yours and all the other films we've received. I see it as a privilege receiving all of these films, no matter what the quality is. They've made the effort to do it, and because we're all going through such a crazy time, and even more crazy in the last 2 weeks, especially in the US, and just to give people an outlet, a focus of creativity. It's been great, and obviously you guys have got the ISFF over there as well. So it's been an interesting time, and thank you very much, Ian, for being on the podcast first, mostly.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure, Alex. Thanks for having me, man. I'm just stoked to be here, dude. Stoked to chat with you, and I'm glad my tech is working. I would be lying to you if I told you I wasn't up nights trying to figure out the best way to do this. So I'm glad my tech is working okay.
Tech, yeah. Like Zoom had me over a barrel to a certain degree for the first couple of interviews I did. And it was awful. Like, what is going on with this service? And then what I do is I compress the video, and the video is compressed out by Zoom, and then I replace my shot with my Blackmagic shot.
Right.
So I film it just off camera to where you are.
Right.
And but your shot is great, which I'm loving.
Okay, cool. Hey, man, I'm always stoked to hear that I'm helping fellow camera people and tech people as well. So that's always nice to know. I strive for. I've been an audio producer for, gosh, I mean, I've been in bands since we can talk about all sorts of great stuff. I've been a musician since I can really remember as a teenager, and I've been doing music production for 15 years. And so for me, it's not okay to not have good audio. So I'm obsessed with audio. So,
and that's something I'm going to bring up is that we don't have a best sound award. And obviously at the Oscars, you've got editing, sound effects, sound editing. And I'm going to try and push, because there's only 3 of us that are doing all of this. So there's no one else. There's no big sponsors or anything. Possibly next year with the involvement we're having now. But that's something a lot of the other filmmakers I've chatted to have kind of hit upon, is that it's 50% of the immersion of content. Like me and my partner, when we watch films, one of the first things when we have the house redone is we're going to put speaker cable everywhere in this room, because if we're buying an OLED TV, why aren't we listening to it at the highest possible quality? If we've got the facility to have that sound or listen to it properly as the mixer intended, because it would be like if you watched Apocalypse Now, you're doing Walter Murch a massive disservice by not listening to his 3 years of work. You know, that's how I approach it. It's just purely out of respect. And it's like when I started to make short films or produce corporate content, it was all of my kind of piracy or anything like that. It just went out the window because I finally understood what it was to respect that. And I know, and the amount of work that goes in at the highest level and those people that work at the lowest level within huge productions. So yeah, I just found a newfound respect for sound and picture years ago. And now it's, there's some really, really well-made films in this. And it's just giving them the respect. So we're doing editing, we're doing best film, Vance's cinematography award. Now we found the new judge, and it got confirmed like half an hour ago. And I tell you what,
you think quite giddy. This is awesome.
I'm exceptionally giddy. I'm going to tell you who it is. This is a little secret that's going to be released on Friday. So if you can keep this to yourself to a certain degree, it's a company called the Directors Duo. Now the Directors Duo, there's a sequence in Ant-Man that they created the entire thing for.
Oh, okay. I think
have you heard of them before?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have. Like vaguely, but as soon as you said Ant-Man, like, yeah.
They did when the Yellow Jacket is like, they have that conference at the headquarters of the technology, and the Yellow Jacket's announced. They did all the CG and all of that work.
Oh, that is some insane work, dude. That's some of the most historic, I feel like, in all those comic series films. That's a pretty historic moment too. And
on their website they talk about working with Kevin Feige and Peyton Reed. I'm like, oh my god, this is incredible. And
that's really cool, man. Well, congratulations.
No, I appreciate that. So they're probably going to. I don't know. It's difficult, and I've not said which category to them yet. But they're stoked. So initially, I was going to ask them to try and produce a film, but it was like, nigh impossible. They're working on a BMW advert as we speak. So it's not like, yeah, can you produce this? Would you be interested? So initially I was thinking, much broader, much bigger for the festival, but we're trying to make more of a community with filmmakers and actors and audio engineers, that kind of thing across the board. So yeah, it's incredibly exciting, man. And their show reel's unreal. Like there's a Panasonic advert for OLED where it's a woman in a spacesuit that's running across this thing where meteorites are hitting her from behind and she's running. They did all of that. Like their work is incredible. So we're just very stoked, and I've just been bouncing off the walls about it,
That's amazing, man. That's fantastic.
And like the likes of Vance, I told my brother, who's a huge Guns N' Roses fan, oh yeah, he was the cinematographer, he shot all the stuff for Sweet Child of Mine. He was like, what? Yeah,
that's epic. I mean, like, Appetite for Destruction was probably one of the first cassettes I owned. I was 11 or 12 at the time, and yeah, just even from an audio side, but I can just as much respect because their videos were banging too. So that's so cool.
Yeah, where videos kind of meant more in a lot of ways because it's so like, I don't know, there's a lot of great music videos now, but because before MTV really died, music videos were a huge calling card for the music.
Absolutely. And it wasn't I mean, on the flip side of things too, the things we can achieve now with DSLRs and digital cam. And I was on a TV show that I was for 4 seasons, and the first season I was on and a little bit of the second season, they were still shooting film stock, and this was 2005. So like to think, and then they shifted all over to Sony Red, but I remember at the time just being like, watching the transition shift. And you think about music videos like filmed like that in the 80s and stuff, like that's all film. And like it's dailies they had to watch, and dailies used to take a certain amount of time to process so they could actually watch the dailies, whereas like when you watch digital dailies you can watch them within seconds. And it's just the times they have changed. But man, if you can go back and really understand some of that past film history and the film itself, like actual photography film, it's really cool. And you could even appreciate even the way like colors and shades like blacks and grays are developed differently on films versus where they're getting much better in digital now. But there's that digital phase where lots of dark colors, blacks, grays, and all these things, they would break up and in digital world, but in film world it never did. That's why you could shoot something so dark in film, because the blacks would always be exposed nicely and just so creamy, whereas in the digital world everything, especially near the beginning there, you had to be lit and overlit because it was just the processors couldn't deal with it as much. And obviously we're getting way better every minute, every hour.
Absolutely.
It's just cool to see the film progression, and happy to have been part of watch film turn into digital, and also the audio world too. So
yeah, because then you have I think you do have a better understanding. Like even shooting 35mm film now, it kind of forces you a lot more to get more in the camera and less in post.
Absolutely.
And the worst, like when I shot stuff and go, my attitude years ago was, let's just shoot what we can and get it in post and sort it there.
Yeah.
You can probably do a lot more in post now than then, but I think that you've got to any half decent filmmaker or anyone that approaches it, you want to, like mastering audio, you want the best out of it straight away. You don't want to kind of overly process something if you've set everything right initially. It's the same with sound. It's the same with picture. If you can get the best recording straight away, then you're on to a winner, straight out the gate, aren't you?
Yeah, there's a saying. I don't know if I won't technically swear in the podcast. I don't know if
that's
you guys
fine. You can go right ahead, mate.
There's a saying. I'm sure you've heard it in the audio world, and it's sure it's the same in the film world. But they say shit in, shit out, right? So
yeah, absolutely, yeah. That was like my pizza scenario yesterday. Yes, I spoke to Katisha Shaw, an actress based in Canada, and we were talking about Hellraiser, and she was saying her dad showed her Hellraiser when she was like 5 or 6 years old.
Oh, amazing.
And she's a massive horror nerd, and I was like, yeah, you're in right company here, because I'm a huge horror fan. And we were about to watch Hellraiser last night. We ordered pizza from Papa John's. Now, I love Papa John's. There's lots of other pizza outlets, but when I had it, it was a massive food coma. Honestly, I've never experienced anything like that in my life. I was on the couch like this. I thought something had really seriously happened. I went to bed super early because I'm a night owl, and it was crazy, man. So yeah, I don't know what my point is, but that it's.
Do you think maybe it had something to do with the? I mean, you guys seem to be putting in a lot of hours to this thing, and maybe it was an exhaustion versus pizza versus carbohydrates.
Yeah, and the like this is going. I think the podcast. I really enjoy the process and being able to speak to filmmakers and getting some real insights and of how they shot, how they work, what they're doing, how their lives are. Because isolation's a crazy thing. It's probably a large part of the reason I had that food coma was just like overexcitement. I've just talked to someone about Hellraiser. Great, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that is cool, man. And especially in that level too, of someone watching when they're 6. My dad showed me the movie Predator when I was, I think, 8, and to the day, it's like that meme. To the day, I still A am scared of it, and B will never forget trying to sleep for like a week after that. And I think my dad kind of regretted showing me that. He probably shouldn't have showed me at 8 years old, but it was still a fantastic film now as it was then. But yeah, it scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, look at the cinematography in that film. If you want to know how to show how to put groups of actors together in one shot and have them staggered, and Jan de Bont's, I think it was Jan de Bont's the DP. You've got the oh my god, the director's name did Die Hard as well.
I remember director names, by the way.
Oh my god, that's killing me. John McTiernan. So he did Predator, and within a couple of years, or either way, he did Die Hard. it's like Ridley Scott, Alien, and Blade Runner. You know what I mean? It's like there's some sort of like magic Kool-Aid they're drinking at that point.
I think they get into a flow, right, and a rhythm. I think, and then you see some of those films. I found that with David Fincher, with like Seven and Fight Club and stuff, and he just got into this groove. I feel like
Yeah.
I don't know if it was, and I mean, I've always been a Brad Pitt fan, and there's obviously he's a superstar, and there's people who think he's great, people who think he's whatever, and some people probably think he's not that great of an actor or what have you. I think especially in his older years, he's getting better and better too with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I totally agree. Yeah.
I Fight Club and Seven are some of my absolute favorite thrillers. Well, Fight Club being more, I guess, an action, sort of dark action thriller, but Seven being one of my absolute favorite top. It's probably like my top thriller for sure.
Yeah, it like that film in the rain. Oh my god!
What's in the box? What's in the box?
he makes just his visual style is incredible.
Yeah.
And it's been a little bit hit and miss for me in terms of his more recent stuff, but it's still very, very, very good. And I
don't even know if I've
seen Zodiac.
Actually, I didn't see Zodiac, and I know that it's unreal. So,
it is very good. Only a couple of shots look like digital because I think it is digital, and
right.
But it's such a fine line now between digital and film.
It's getting like we said earlier, it's getting more and more closer to fool you, and Anyway,
he's got an exceptional, massive, potentially his film for best director coming out with Gary Oldman in the lead. It's called, I think it's called Mank. Have you heard of this?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Like, you're making a film about the writer of Citizen Kane. Yeah, it's going to be massive.
Yeah, that's.
I'm super excited about that because I don't know if he's ever been nominated. Was it Social Network possibly he was nominated for? I don't think he won because obviously, oh yeah, you'll love this. I've got a little, is it 1 Degree of Separation from David Fincher? Because in the same week I met Rihanna where I worked. She bought tickets for her and her friends in Manchester. I used to work at cinema. Trent Reznor came in and was performing at the MEN. And I didn't recognize him. This pissed me off forever. So, and he wrote my favorite song. Obviously, I think his version is inferior to the Johnny Cash one because Johnny Cash, because he was dying at the end of his career, it was a perfect scenario. So I served him. It's like a really stocky guy, but he had the short hair. That's what threw me. He had the really short hair, and a friend next to me turned to me like this. Do you know who that was you just served? I said, no, Trent Reznor. I said, what the fuck? Oh. The funniest thing is, I think it was 300 or something like that. There was a trailer. I can't remember the year, but I know the trailer. In the film he was watching in this particular screen, I think he was in screen 12 or whatever. His music was in one of the trailers in one of the films he's watching. So I'm like, yeah, that's pretty crazy. And yeah, it was a bit of a surreal week. I was devastated because I would have thanked him for his music. You know what I mean?
So, you know what, man? I'm sure you seem like you got a great energy anyway. I'm sure he was just stoked to.
Oh yeah,
get his soda and get whatever you served, his popcorn or whatever you served him.
Yeah, he was just. Now I sold him his tickets, and Rihanna was in full denim with a denim hat. And there's the strange thing is, she had like 10 friends with her, but she was the one that came up to pay. Do you know what I mean? So you can say that there's less of that bullshit with some of those people, which is great, man. And Trent was performing with 9 Inch Nails. I think it was the night before, so he must have been, or the night after, so he must have been the night before his performance. And yeah, it was just kind of cool to feel the energy. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, especially the presence like Trent Reznor. I mean, and then even Rihanna. It's funny. My wife, we're photographers. She's been a photographer for it's been her only career, and she got to photograph. She did a lot of music stuff in her past. She used to do award shows here in Canada. Like we've done an award show called the Juno Awards. It's like our music award show we do in Canada. And then we used to have this thing called the Genie Awards, and it turned into the actor awards. But the Junos are a pretty big event they do every year. And Erin got to shoot it one year. That's my wife is Erin. She actually got to photograph just before the Junos. Rihanna was doing a performance, kind of like a smaller. This is when she's brand new.
Like more intimate.
Yeah, I think she was 18, and
oh, wow.
She may even been 16, to be honest with you, 17, 18, 19-ish. She was at the 16, 19 era, but she's got some amazing pictures of Rihanna just like this teenager. It's so cool, man. Back from
wow, that's incredible. Is your wife's work available online to view?
Well, not any of her old stuff. Our weddings, we own a wedding company, and
oh, cool.
Yeah, that we do strictly weddings. She does strictly wedding photography. It's just Aaron Blackwood photo, or AaronBlackwood.com is her
If you
website.
want to fire those across to me, then I'm more than happy to put it in a kind of description and that as well.
Yeah, sure, man. Yeah, we up until COVID, we do about 40 weddings a year until
Wow,
now.
that's great.
Now, this year was
Is everything next year now?
yeah, and yeah, it's in the interim we're just hanging out. That's one of the reasons why I made a short film, because I thought, okay, well, here's a chance to flex the filmmaker bone again that I haven't done in a few years, because prior to the short film and little bits and pieces I did in my sister's band's videos. She's in a band from Canada. They're called Walk Off the Earth. And I was the lead actor in one of their most recent singles. The song's called I'll Be There. It's a really cool video. Touches on mental health and stuff like that. Really, we had a lot of fun.
Wow.
Yeah. So other than that, though, I'd actually taken about 2 years off acting, because I'd been acting for almost 15 years, and I took 2 years off strictly to just work with my wife and do the wedding photography, just because I ended up finding sort of peace and kind of happiness with the wedding world. To be honest with you, I had to.
That's great.
Yeah, if I can be candid, anyway, I had to take a break from the film world and the hustle and bustle of being an actor, and the constant rejection and the pounding the pavement and the commuting to Toronto and in and out of casting houses and stuff. It can play a bit of a downer role in your life, and
absolutely,
depending on who you are and depending on how you deal with things. But I needed a break, so I took a break. But yeah, this little short film was my sort of kind of coming back, I guess, in a little ways. And just because we're in a pandemic, and I saw the original the Toronto the Isolation Film Fest had the submissions go up, and I was like, oh, this is I actually saw it kind of late. I had only about a week and a half or 2 weeks to the deadline, so I thought, okay, I want to submit for this thing, and so it's just kind of me coming back, and I wanted to throw something together, and I had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, you can tell in a lot of ways that you shoot decent video. The very first thing I noticed straight away, without even looking at the story, was, oh, this looks great. That's the first thing I thought. And we'll get back to your film. I just want to quickly ask you about your photography. So you predominantly do photography, and do you do any video at weddings?
I do zero video. Now, here's what, and I think we can. This will touch base on exactly what we started talking about at the beginning of the interview. And for me, the reason I don't do video is sound. So sound at weddings scares the shit out of me.
Yeah. Oh my God. I shoot weddings every so often, because I do a full-time video thing, doing live streams for universities, that kind of thing. And it's changed a lot at the moment, obviously. And sound at weddings, the amount of doubling it up you have to do. Like, I have a personal recorder, I have a wireless set sent to the camera. It freaks me out. Like, the best thing is after those speeches, the energy drop, because obviously I'm shooting the first dance or whatever. My body it's exhausting. It's physically exhausting. Now I've shot a few stills weddings here and there. One for a friend of mine in Mexico, which was unreal because it was Mexico. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And cobbled streets, all paint peeling off the buildings, that kind of thing, And the energy is obviously completely different, but I didn't feel the same level of physical exhaustion. The mental fatigue for doing weddings, and more power to you for both of you, it takes a lot of toll, doesn't it? But as long as you've got the jazz for it. Now, when you come to do stills, what's the kind of division of work? How does that work? And do you overshoot certain things? How do you work it out with your wife?
Okay, this is great. We have this argument all the time, and it's a pretty good argument. I undershoot because I shoot to edit, just like when I'm filming. I hate having access footage. I can't stand it. I don't see a need for it. I completely understand it, especially with all due respect when it comes to someone else editing your work. Totally get it. Overshoot. Get the shot 10 times. Get that coverage. Get those insert shots you want. Get the coverage. Get what you need. When I shoot, though, when I know I'm editing, no way. I'll tell you, one of the big things for me was I spent, like I said before, a lot of time. I spent a lot of years, decade and a half in the music industry. And when you shoot music videos, you're shooting a 3-minute video, and sometimes you're doing 15, 16-hour days. And honestly, man, a lot of it is oh, let's just go again. We got it, but let's go again. And I understand, don't get me wrong, because I'm not, I'm not some prick that's like, oh, I have better things to do. I literally just am tired and I don't want to do, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Now I get it. I've done ads where I'll be booked 3 days on a commercial and it's a 30-second commercial. It's hilarious because you've just worked, 50 hours tallied up in 3 days and you're on this commercial and it's a 30-second spot or 60-second spot.
Yeah.
It's funny, but anyway, so that where my mindset comes is I shoot. I know I've got it. My wife, who's actually way smarter than I am, by the way, because she studied film originally. She studied photography on film. So her aperture, her eye, her everything, she's got the f-stop shutter and aperture already set with her eyes. She knows she can calibrate light way better than me. Like I'm still in the digital world where I kind of do the old guess and the old light meter guess, where she's like, she can set a camera in seconds. I take much more. I take a minute, so
yeah.
We have this argument though, because I definitely undershoot. Now I don't know if it's because the way it works is on a wedding day we split it up, the task. Obviously she shoots the bride to be, I shoot the groom to be, and I shoot all the guys doing the guy things. She shoots the women doing the women things, and women tend to do much more. They take better care of themselves. They have more makeup to do. They have more things to put together. Whereas the bits and pieces for guys are just like throw some pants on, spray some cologne. And it's just like, I think, and maybe that's just an energy thing, but that's the way we do it. That's the way it works. But yeah, I definitely, I guess I shouldn't say I undershoot, but I
efficient, more efficient in your head. Yeah. Like there's only so many groom in the mirror getting ready shots you can do.
Exactly. And I find too with brides anyhow, they usually have this sort of like, not to say guys don't have the excitement to take photography. Some guys actually are really stoked. Some guys are okay, and some guys don't really want it. But that's part of the job. You've got to get it out of them, and you've got to be playful and just figure out how you're going to get the pick and get out of the way. I always say try not to disrupt the wolf pack, don't to disrupt them too much, and just simply photograph the wolf pack in their natural behavior. Yeah. But with the females, you tend to find that they're a little more like, a little more flexible with like doing a few more setups and things like that.
Totally agree with that. Yeah, it's that across the board, pretty much all my experience of weddings, then I'd absolutely agree with that. So it's a good balance to have, and it must be nice to have that debrief, because when I shoot videos mostly on my own, and I try and bring it, depending on the budget, then I'll always bring someone else for safety. So it gives me peace of mind. Can you go and shoot that so I can have a 5-minute break or whatever? So it must be nice to have a debrief and decompress after a wedding as well.
Oh, it's lovely. And I like, with working with it's not for everyone. I understand not a lot of people can work with their partners, and I'd say maybe even, dare I say, probably the majority of the human race maybe doesn't really want to work with their partners. But listen, I've had many different, funny careers, different jobs, different gigs, different things, gig economy stuff. And I tell you, I should have been doing this sooner with her, because I've been doing photography since high school. I went to film school in college, and I went for post-production, screenwriting, and acting, and we did a little editing, and we did a little bit of all this, that, and the other thing. So I've always been passionate about it, and I love camera anyway. So it was just one of those things where she was like, you really should be working with me. I was like, yeah, that's actually a good idea, especially in the acting world, because you audition in the mornings, afternoons, during the week anyway. Most weddings are on weekends, and if you're doing a shoot, chances are you're doing a commercial shoot on a Saturday. And if you did happen to book the gig, which is probably 1 in 25 when you're auditioning professionally in the rat race, if you are booking 1 in 25, okay, there's a pretty small chance you're going to work a Saturday in the film world. If it is, find another photographer or figure it out. But yeah, it's something I should have been doing a little while ago, I think. But yeah. I do quite enjoy it. I really do enjoy the wedding days, man. It's fun, and the food's great. The clients are fantastic.
Yeah, that's always fun. Yeah, and like the energy with having a woman as part of your photo crew, it's disarming in a lot of ways, and people soften up.
Oh yeah,
and I think it's a really perfect balance. Most photographers that work as a team that I've met on other weddings that I've just been to, it's been a couple, or it's that balance of a guy and a girl, and it really does work well, and it gives me more confidence, and it gives the bride, especially when you go for those initial meetings, I think it helps the bride quite a lot, except you as a photographer and want to book you. especially if you're doing like 30 weddings a year or something, which is fantastic, or 40, whatever you said. So it's, have you found I know I'm not sure how much you want to talk about this, but I'm really fascinated by it.
Yeah, no,
So
man.
what's your, you don't have to tell me numbers, but what's your, what was your kind of percentage shift that they've been okay to shift it to next year?
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's been, it's been a, I'll just say a mess, as we can all agree in just as far as rescheduling goes. But our percentage now, like we've lost so far, I shouldn't say lost. We've rescheduled, like 98%, which has been fantastic.
Yeah,
I think
that's
we
great.
lost. I think we only lost one or two because they went ahead and rebooked, but they didn't ask if we were available. And we actually had already had that date taken for someone who already booked 2021.
I see. Yeah,
We book about 2 years in advance. My wife, like she's kind of a big deal.
that's awesome, man. That organization's mate. That's what you
Oh,
need.
like I said, I'm not, I'm as humble as they come, I guess. But I guess when people say that usually means they're not humble. But no, but no, I do mean it. She's such a great. She really is one of the, in my opinion. I mean, she's my wife. I'll be, biased,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
just one of the best photographers in the GTA and in Canada. And if, there's a reason why we shoot this many weddings, and it's not only her extreme talent. Her personality is fantastic. She's half Italian, half Irish. So she's got this,
That's a fiery mix.
Yes, exactly. It's bubbly, fiery. Like she's commanding when she needs to be, but she's extremely kind, and she's always been able. One of the ways I met her was when, through a mutual friend, and she was actually, I got her to do headshots for me. And I remember at the time I was like, this photographer is so comfortable. It's just comfortable being around this woman. Like, she knows how to direct lightly, but she knows how to direct, and get the point across and not beat around the bush, and just get. And they're some of the best headshots I ever had, and I booked a lot of the work from them, most of my work from them. So I mean, it all kind of dominoed, right? So so I was
that's awesome.
Marry her. So
so how long after did you ask her out?
no, it didn't take long. I saw a picture of her and I was like, I have to meet this woman. And then as soon as I did meet her, we had met at a party at, God, we've been together now for almost 15 years, and we've been married for almost 11.
Wow.
So,
That's, well, congrats, man. That's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. We met, I don't want to say serendipitous. It was a friend that sort of had mentioned it, but I saw this photograph of this woman. I was like, I have to meet this girl. She's beautiful. She was holding a Fender Telecaster in this picture.
Oh, there you go. There you go. That's it, isn't it?
I was like, okay, I'm sold. Like, and then I got to meet her at a house party. Long story short, we were seeing people at the time, like seeing other people. So we just sort of like kind of did the old, okay, I'm going to remember you for the next few months, and you probably won't leave my thoughts. And then as luck would hit, I ended up going to a bar one night to go meet up with some friends, and the one young woman who was a mutual friend of ours had mentioned that she was going to be there, and I was like, oh, maybe just maybe she'll be single this time, and sure enough, she was. So I said, listen, I want to make you. Back in the day, we used to make mixtapes and mix CDs. I don't know how many young people do that these days, but I said, I'm going to make you a mix CD, and that was sort of my code for, hey, do you want to go on a date sometime?
That's good, man. And it's yeah. Then that must have been like, did you put a ton of pressure on yourself to pick the right kind of music?
You know what, man? Yeah, of course I did. I didn't want to screw it up, but I mean, I had a feeling I kind of knew what she was going to like, and I just picked a bunch of folk stuff, and I think I did like some Neil Young stuff. I think I did some Ryan Adams stuff.
Amazing.
I think I had some Death Cab for Cutie on there. I had a bunch of cool, like, 2000s like type folky stuff.
I saw Neil Young at Glastonbury. I think it was 09 or 2010, and he was playing a guitar, and the shirt was falling off him. So I don't know. He must have had it on his shoulders or something, but it's falling off him onto the guitar, and he was still playing like. And then what do you call it? The strings, they just broke on the guitar, and it was a very special moment in music for me, because he's so talented. Like, I respect him for trying to do that whole uncompressed music thing you tried to do.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think the whole analog Neil Young world is a world that, again, it's just like film. I mean, I remember my old bands doing reel-to-reel tape and, doing records, even in like 2000, 2001, still doing reel-to-reel tape in studios and stuff. And that whole analog world is an understanding people should have. And I think obviously Neil meant his absolute best, and I respect him. He's a legend. He's Canadian export, and
Absolutely.
he's the man. But I just think, again, it was one of those. I have a funny quote from my wife's experience in her post-secondary world of photography. One of her instructors once said he brought in one of the new. I can't remember if it was a he or she, but the instructor brought in a camera. It was one of the first digital cameras, and he held it up and said, "This is digital, and this isn't going to work. It's not going to last." And okay. And then they went back upon back about their ways of doing, film and stuff. And, fast forward, I don't know how many years later, and I'm not going to age my wife on the podcast, but now here we are completely in a digital world. And I think, again, it's Neil. I think Neil, he meant well, absolutely. And he's not wrong in a sense that he does mention a lot about the algorithm in digital music and how the way it's written is technically wrong. I don't necessarily disagree with him. I will say though, my first things come to mind when we talk analog audio is soundboards and anything like mixing board wise, which obviously are, there's just as much character as like a great actor or a great writer, or great director. Like these soundboards have a built-in soul and purpose as well. And I agree that I think they're full of that, and they're full of some of the, you think of Fleetwood Mac records, Tom Petty records, Foo Fighter records, Nirvana records, so whatever you want to call it, even some early hip hop records, maybe even some of the early Nas stuff. Like you go back
more, yeah.
And they have the mix board itself had a character too, so it all played a role. But I will say, if you ever want to do a mix recall on an old mixing board, it's going to take you about 5 days just to recall one song and then make one tweak. Whereas nowadays, when you can, and again, I guess I understand it's bittersweet in that was part of the journey and part of the discovery of analog audio and finding these tones and sounds. But I will say the in-the-box world is also really great for recall, man, because you just press a button.
Yeah, absolutely. This audio that you're listening to, I bought a solid state Logic. It's only a little SSL2 Plus, but oh my God, I'm so happy with it because it has these analog knobs on it. And they just make me happy. And it's got a 4K legacy button. So it sounds more like the original giant board. So it was just like, I've got to buy this. I wouldn't feel right if I bought an M audio interface or something, So I really, it's so true, man.
I run, it's funny. I don't know how many nerds are going to want to hear about this stuff.
Oh, no, this is exactly the reason I want to speak to people, is because it helps. Like, we've talked to an actress yesterday about her audition process. We've had kids on it with their parents talking about trying to start going to auditions. So it absolutely, all of this helps, man.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, and it's funny. I can tell you my horror stories of the audition room and tell you my horror stories of the film jobs. And I can also tell you about ADDA conversion in audio and how much I respect and love digital audio. So you can go whatever route you want, man. You got it.
I really appreciate you just coming on and like, I've got a lot of respect for the work you do, because it's a difficult decision to make. Right, I've got to step aside from something I love doing to obviously something else you obviously love doing because you're working with your wife on it, and it is a incredibly difficult process. And this is one of the reasons that I co-founded the festival with a friend of mine, is because I couldn't stand nothing to do because I work anyway. Thankfully I still work at home, but it was, I need to put my creative energy somewhere. And it was incredibly difficult for me to shoot anything at home because there's so much going on. Like at the moment, I've got flooring happening, and I couldn't step out the office for 4 hours today. So it's little things. So I thought, right, I'm not going to shoot anything.
Right.
I've got all this parquet flooring from this convent. It's got to get laid. We've paid them a lot of money. It's got to get done. So I thought, right, over the last few months when everything's going on, especially because it's such a major project, this house, it's I thought, right, we've got to create something for an outlet for people to create content. And it's been such a positive experience talking to people like yourself and loads of super talented people from Canada. We've just spoke to a filmmaker from Tel Aviv, Australia, New Zealand, Colombia, trying to speak to the person from Colombia because the energy will be so different, Yes. And so it's been an absolute privilege, and I'm going off on a massive tangent as I always do.
No, it's cool. Like I said, it's I saw you. I can't remember. I'll be completely flat out honest. I can't remember. I think it was through. It was definitely a link through the Toronto International Film Fest or the Isolation Film Fest, and then I saw your guys' website because after they had done the submission process, and after I think it was actually after the broadcast is when I saw you guys on Instagram, and I just thought to myself, I was like, well, you know what the heck, like. This looks really cool. And I mean, why not submit it again? Cause I had such a great time in the Toronto one and, getting honorable mention and, just before their top 10s. And it was great to be part of that. And then, when I saw your guys' Instagram, and to be honest with you, I thought even further, there's the Whistler Film Fest, the Vancouver Film Festival.
Absolutely.
I don't know if Montreal's doing one or not, but I'm going to consider submitting it just because obviously I'll submit I don't know if you've noticed, but I did a UK cut for you guys because I don't know if you wanted to talk about that a bit.
Do you know what? I did notice, but I didn't think about it again until you've just mentioned it.
Okay.
I totally dig that. And let me make a note about that. Because that's going to I'm going to make sure no matter what, UK edition, you're absolutely going to get an honorable mention for that in one shape or another, no matter whatever, happens with the show on the 20th, that's going to get mentioned because to do that, is extremely clever, and was it all the content on the screen?
Exactly, content on the screen, and then the announcer and the name of the radio station and all that, because it just didn't at the time.
Did you do that after, or how did you do that? Please let me know.
Yes, so I did it after, and I did it strictly because I applied, and I'm not lying, because I applied to your film festival, and I thought to myself, none of these jokes are going to land, or potentially none of these jokes on the paper, especially the jokes with like our premier of Ontario. He was wearing a Conquer COVID shirt, and he literally looked like a World Wrestling Federation wrestler. Like he actually looked like a Stone Cold Steve Austin or a Hulk Hogan Macho Man type. Like he literally did in one of his speeches. And I thought it was so amazing. I was like, this is incredible. Like, first of all, I want that shirt. Second of all, I thought, okay, like Premier Doug Ford is his name. He just looks so badass, and I was like, okay, that's going to make the quarantine paper that my character's reading. And then there was a viral. You may or may not have heard of this. In our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had a speech he was addressing, as he usually addresses every day or every few days or sometimes once a week. He he had a speech, and in his speech he talked about speaking moistly.
Someone's done a music video for our festival for that. Yeah.
Okay, so great. So there's an actual viral song that a fella out of I think it's Alberta, Canada.
I've heard it, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I can't place his name right now, so I apologize about that. But anyway, this thing went viral and it was huge and it was hilarious. So I was like, hey, that's going to be in the newspaper too. But then when I was submitting for you guys, and I do this all the time. I'm a pre-pro like just nerd. I do things. Like I actually shot the film for about 50, 60 seconds before I even shot the film. Like I set up everything, I set up a few angles just to see how I was going to do it. I even put a little edit together, a couple of the jokes just to see if it works. Like I do this all the time.
Would you call that your kind of boarding process?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's exactly like a board, it's kind of like shot listing, but just doing it actually shooting. Not necessarily the most, the quickest route to do it when you're working with a crew and stuff, but I'm by myself and I'm in quarantine, so who cares? But I do this a lot because I dissect a lot and I like to break things down and see if they're going to land or if they're going to be quality. And when I watched back, because there was a few things I wanted to tweak ever since I think it was cut 8 that I submitted to the Toronto. Okay. I got into cut 9, 10, just a couple little tweaks and quirks here and there audio wise, and a couple, maybe I think it's insert shots, but I watched it again and I thought, yeah, I want to submit to this UK Film Fest. It looks great. And then I thought to myself, but are my jokes going to land, especially the newspaper ones? So
Trudeau, to a certain degree, yes. But in terms of the shirt and that kind of thing, probably not. So it's a very clever move. That's why I made a note, because I applaud you for that. I think it's not a deceitful change. It's a respectful one as well in terms of your work and your audience as well. So more props to you for doing that.
Well, thank you, man. Yeah, it was a simple, I want to say simple reshoot, because I just had to essentially reshoot the laptop opening. I had to redesign the new, the quote unquote digital newspaper, newsprint I was reading. I just had to redesign that, relight but it's funny because you know how light is and how times change. I shot the film, you know, somewhere in the beginning of April when we were still kind of brownish grayish outside. And then now when I'm doing the pickup 4 weeks later, I have green grass outside. So even through the glass refraction, the refraction and the reflection, I had a bit of green light tinge. So I had, there was some color tweaks that I had to do and to try to figure it out to shoot the same spot. Cause the spot where I shot is right in my kitchen, and we look out on our front yard there. But yeah, you get a lot of color reflection from the grass and the blues and the greens and stuff. So even just the little things like that, I thought to myself, this is going to be great. I'll just do this. And then I started shooting and I started realizing, I was like, oh shoot. So I think I did a pretty good job blending it in. And
the radio channel, was that you doing a Scottish impression?
Yeah,
it's good. It's pretty good. I'll say that this is not a criticism. This is a critique.
Throw it at me, man.
Now I'm part Scottish, so I'm justified in saying this. I'm like a part Welsh, part Scottish, basically from all corners of the UK. I reflect badly. I burn in the sun, so I know I'm from kind of northern UK, and my ancestry is going to be Nordic, so I can say this justifiably. Now, the only thing, you want that person that's Scottish to sound more fucking miserable.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. I swear to God, and I'm not kidding here, I had done a couple of voiceover cuts, and I even said to my wife, because I feel I do a better Scot than I do a Brit, so I thought, okay, I'm going with Scot just because it feels better, the delivery feels better. But I swear to you, I had a couple where it did sound quite miserable. But I didn't like it because I thought, no, I don't want to submit to a film fest. I wanted to submit to a film fest. So.
Yeah, the best reason you did that, though, best compliment I can give you for that, is because it's consistent with the rest of the energy of the film. If you'd had a miserable gut thing and then it had gone to you, and your character's kind of not bouncy but has the right kind of positive energy, that I think that's one of the reasons I really liked your film, is that it flowed really well and the energy was right and fun, and obviously the music matched that as well. So yeah, you absolutely made the right choice. But if you want to do a real Scottish, you're going to be a miserable bastard.
Well, Alex, too, I said to myself, because I mean, and like I said, you have I will say, as being as Canadian as I am, I have British, I have Scottish and English blood in there, in the, you know, last name Blackwood, like it's back there. It's generations back there, great grandfathers, I'm sure. But not to say that I have the right to be a good Scotsman. But when I did it, I thought, okay, I thought it had to kind of carry this, like, I don't care who you are, how miserable you really are. If you find out that this thing is defeated, this, you know, COVID-19, we've got the vaccine and we're good now, I feel like no matter how miserable you'd be pretty excited. So maybe even the slightest bit of excitement, I think, was what I was trying to go for.
No, I think, absolutely. With your narrative, it makes complete sense. Good. And even that most hardened Scottish shepherd or something would be happy with that, because it is. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was just going to mention the big thing too was that, like, I had done this little tiny short bit. It was seriously, I would think it was like a 45-second or a 1-minute film. A photographer from the area had emailed me and said, I'm looking for an actor voiceover, and, you know, I got your name from such and such. And I said, oh, sure. I said, send me the bit. And it happened to be like a 30s style, like, okay, so today, Jim, okay, let's do that. Yeah, the weather report is, and I don't know what happened, but I had that feeling again for the film that I did for It's Over. So I thought, I'm just going to bring it back. I just spent, 2 days doing this little job for, a photographer from Toronto. And I thought, I'm going to stay right in this laneway and just go. I'm going to be in the original. If you watch the Canadian cut or the, whatever, the North American cut, you'll hear that it's like a 1930s radio announcer, but.
Or like Edward G. Robinson or something like
that
old school actor. Do you know what? Thinking back to what you said, you're absolutely right to cast the Scotsman in that radio station, because the energy it'd have to be, if there was a cure and it was being given out worldwide now, it'd be such a monumental occasion.
I think so.
And a Scotsman would be so fucking. I think everyone would be, and like it, when the Olympics was in the UK, I think it was 8 years ago, something like that. I should know that. And it was the energy across the UK was so different, and it was the positivity was fantastic and all of that. And even people at my distant family up further past the Hadrian's Wall, they were just as happy as I was, and it united the country to a certain degree. And obviously with Brexit and all of that, everything's just fucked.
Right.
So
right.
so yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think if you think about your film and you think about Scotsman doing that on radio saying, there's a cure, or what, I can't remember the line of dialogue. It makes complete sense. It would be a Scots person. If it had been like classic English London type, then it not Cockney, but it wouldn't work as well.
Yeah,
It would sound almost too official, but it sounds like it's someone on the ground being so happy. So yeah, a very smart decision there. It's a very clever decision to make it obviously UK oriented, but yeah, a very good one overall.
Oh, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. A friend of mine said to me, I'm looking forward to when you do the, what do you say, the South Korean cut. And he's like, can you start speaking Korean? I said, yeah, that's probably not going to happen, but.
No, I like the additions I did. That's very, very, really, that's why I'm going to make a special props to you on the 20th. It's because, and obviously there's so many great films, there really is. And I'll show you a couple of them as well, to be able to do that, to make it UK ready is great. And did you have that in mind initially? I'm going to put this into festivals worldwide, or did you think, oh, I could change this and it would still make complete sense?
So here's a great question. So the original concept was from my friend James Waller, and he's in the credits. And our short story about him, just a short backstory, so we can talk about how this happened. He's a near and dear friend of mine. I've known him since I was 4 years old. We grew up together in small town Burlington, Ontario, which is just about an hour, 45 minutes outside of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. We have long story short, we have a little chat group going with all my sort of a handful of the nearest and dearest sort of high school and public school buddies. And we have a little WhatsApp chat because a lot of them don't necessarily live in Canada anymore. And James is one of them. He actually lives in Hong Kong. So we get to chat almost every day because we do this WhatsApp, although he's almost 12 hours difference. But I saw the film. The way it happened was I saw the film fest poke up, and I said, oh, I gotta enter this thing. But I was literally, I don't know what happened. I was kind of dry for ideas. And I just had mentioned to my friend James, I said, and a couple of the guys, I said, does anyone have an idea for a short film? Because I really want to do one. It's got to be 3 minutes or under, and but I need a good a good idea, and I'm feeling dry lately. And he just chimes in and goes, it'd be funny, a short film about everything like the day you find out the pandemic is over, and the day quarantine's done. He's like, he's like, go wherever direction you want to go, but like, wouldn't it be funny if maybe you even say maybe you started deciding on some things that you were gonna you're gonna commit to some commit to the book club or commit to the historic knitting museum. These things you realize, oh yeah, I'll commit to that and be a nice person because I'll never ever have to actually do that, because who knows how this is gonna last and how long it's gonna last. And so he threw the idea at me, and then that's when I was like, okay. Then the spark just went on fire, and then all the joke ideas came and how I was going to shoot it, the newspaper. And then as far as the country concept, sort of country submissions concept happened, was after I got after the success through the Toronto Festival, and then I had saw your guys' Instagram. I said to James, I said, I think I should submit this thing to a couple different film fests. And then that's when we started chatting. And I said, but listen, he's like, yeah, you should. It did well enough in the Toronto one. But that's when I had mentioned, I don't think these Canadian jokes will land though in certain, like they'll land in the United States for the most part. And I mean, you could quick edit too, but honestly, it wasn't a plan from the beginning, knowing I could tweak because I mean, films are films, they're shot in places, and whether jokes land or not. And I think that's the trick with comedy. Like, again, I have no idea, like comedy is such a hard like market and media to nail, because it's kind of just that when you're trying to be funny. Yeah. When you're trying to be funny, it's usually not funny at all. And that's why comedy is such a tough thing. So
the joke that landed best for me was Netflix. The Netflix.
Oh, okay. Good.
Because it's because that obviously Netflix works worldwide.
Yes.
So it's no, we've completed Netflix. Whatever the line was, I thought, yeah, that's great, love that, and just some very smart choices, man, and
Thank you.
yeah, compliments for doing that. And possibly if you did like a Japanese one or something like that, and there's a festival, you could put the Japanese subtitles on.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you could. You could have. Hey, you could replace the newspaper with, like a Japanese newspaper or something. But again, it's just, I think for me, the attention to detail I've noticed growing up and in film and TV and even in music it's always there. And I think I'm also like, I'm just such an overcritic when it comes to my own stuff that like, it just seemed right. And it just seemed for me, it was kind of like, why the heck not? Because in most cases, no, you don't re-edit the film to suit the country, but this is a 3-minute short. This is a fun film fest. And I thought to myself, well, this is actually a chance to even try to like challenge myself. That's another thing too. I'm always up for a good challenge. And I thought, oh, this will be interesting. So I'll have to reshoot, recreate, redo this, redo that, and then tweak the edit, redo the coloring and all this stuff. But I thought to myself, that's kind of fun in a weird, odd filmmaker way, but I'm sure you can,
it's totally my jam, man. And so yeah, and it's definitely going to get an honorable mention one way or another.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Because it's a unique choice you made, and I think a very clever one. And yeah, and now you told me it. Obviously, I don't think I'd seen the other versions. I think I'd just seen yours because obviously the admin and keeping organized all the films because it's been completely mental. Because we thought we were going to get 15 to 20 submissions because it was just initially an idea between a friend and I. We got over 105 films, and the fact we've got no big backing or anything like that. Possibly next year, based on our judges, we could do, and we're gonna try and find the right kind of partners as well, because we don't want this to turn into some over showy, glamorous thing. And I'll be really critical and not too insulting, and I'm going to keep this in the podcast. Is that I love what the ISFF did, but the show on the day was completely overproduced for me. But that was just my taste in terms of the comedy and certain things. Maybe it just didn't hit with me too well. And I was getting some comments from people that submitted films to them about how they executed the final day. It was a fantastic achievement. The amount of work that went into that, I give them a props, but it's kind of not going to be the way we're going to do ours. We've got 3 people that are going to present, and then we've got obviously our amazing judges that we're going to present towards the end of the day, and then we're going to try and include people in calls at the end of the actual awards show, which will be really difficult, but we're going to try it. And so we're not going to be. It's not going to be like. I'm not going to be in a cocktail dress. You know what I mean? That's a personal opinion. I'm not trying to put that on anyone, but
no, I mean, I felt about it. I think now, guys, you guys like Stephen Mann, like he's a casting director. He's been in the business for years. His mom has been in the business for decades. That's a family. It's a pretty legendary family. And the fact that I think in the beginnings of this, it seemed like they had this little idea, and then
it's blown up.
Yeah,
I've got so much respect for him, and those photographs of him in the bath.
Oh yeah,
I've got to. If you see this video, zero disrespect to you and your festival, but it was. Obviously, I was watching it like 4:00 in the morning. I was watching it as well, so because I've spoken to a couple of filmmakers that did quite well in it, and so maybe it was just that complete exhaustion as well. But it's like having microphones that are the spoons. I understand it. It's a whole isolation joke thing, but yeah, I've got the utmost respect because the production and what he achieved in such a short period of time is monumental. So
I think that's kind of the key message there. I think is the kind of best way to explain it, because they went from this sort of I think anywhere from what I see. Again, I'm not going to put words in anyone's mouth whatsoever. So it just seems like from what I got from the looking like outside peering in, that they had this little idea and all of a sudden it kind of exploded in a very good way. Bringing Cineplex on and
absolutely, that's great.
And then I think the show itself, I think it's just one of those things. It's called growing pains, right? So the show itself, I believe, and again, being completely humbled and honored to have been have my film shown and along the list of incredible filmmakers. And I think there was just a couple of maybe some stumbling points, but I mean, I think they already know. I'm sure they know, and I'm sure they it's the film types that are in the development of that kind of stuff. I'm sure have already, okay, so what are we doing next year, and how are we going to tweak this and tighten this up, and and this, that, and the other thing. So
yeah, so more power. Is it Stephen Mann? More power to you, sir. Because to motivate, like the best thing that I've seen is young actors that we're talking 10, 11 years old that are just starting off in the business, and as you can attest to, Ian, that the pains of rejection is massive. So they've given, especially for Canadian actors, they've given them huge amount of focus there. So it was just it's just a little thing. It's probably the absolute exhaustion of watching that in the UK. It's going, I'm trying to watch everyone's film. I'm so tired.
well, it was also
So,
very long. It was long. I think it was almost
I think ours is going to be 2 hours. We want to make it a tight project, and I think 2 hours. We're not going to show every film in entirety because and obviously I don't think the ISFF did that, because it would be showing 800 films would have been crazy.
Yeah.
And it's not how festivals work anyway. So we're going to, I think this is a little inside of baseball, but we're going to, that's an American reference. I shouldn't have used that, because I've seen a few baseball games and they were long. They were like 5 hours or something. So anyway, so we're going to do a top 20 and we're going to start off with a compilation of, we're trying to do a sequence where we show a shot, at least one shot of every single film. So everyone will be showcased in a very small way, but we want to really kind of have energy up. And then it's going to be the three of us presenting. So it's myself, Nadia, who's based in North Carolina. She's been a friend of mine for over 10 years. And Chris, who's the other co-founder of the festival. So we're going to present it, just the three of us. And we're going to try and make it a lot of fun. And it cut in between those top 20. There'll be honorable mentions, which you're definitely going to be one, just because of that clever choice. Now, other people might have done that, but I'm going to highlight that because it's a really nice move, and I say as a compliment to the UK, which is great. And
I honestly, I love the UK. It's not, and I'm not trying to S any D's here. I'm just, I have a fan. I've toured in bands, been over there. Again, I have the blood in my body. I have the blood of the UK in my body. I think it's a great country, and I mean,
we're going to do top 20 and then cut in between every. So we're going to show 20 full films, and obviously our sequence with every film. And then every second film we're going to award a film, and then we're going to have at least, what can I say, best editing. We're going to have performance, like an acting award. I'm speaking to a couple of relatively big actors to see if they're interested in awarding it. If not, we'll make that choice ourselves. And then best animation, there's a comedy award that a UK-based podcast called Nerd OD, they're a really small podcast, but they go to a lot of these conventions and they talk to actors, and they've built a relatively small community here. So we're going to ask them to present the comedy award. Nice. And it's a lot of fun, man. Cinematography, obviously, with Vance Burberry, I was so stoked about that. Yeah, and then today, the directors duo, I think they're based out of Germany or France, or maybe more Nordic than that. So I need to double check that before I make a mistake about saying that, because you never want to get these countries mixed up. Exactly, yeah.
Mix shit up all the time.
And they're going to do, as far as I'm aware, they're going to do a piece to camera awarding the film for best film. So they're going to choose best film, because there's going to be a few, not arguments, disagreements about choices and that kind of thing. There's some very clear groups of films, that's what I will say, that are really well produced, put together, that we're very happy about. And then there's some like the animation award, for a start. There's 2 or 3 that are, I can't believe they're first time animators. One of them is from the UK, and I'll show you his film. It's called What a Fly Would Do in Isolation. And there's 2 or 3 others, and I just can't believe they're first time filmmakers. And so, yeah, it's something that I'm extremely proud of, like the fact that you've done that. And I take a lot of pride. I take it personally that you've made that choice because of our festival. So that's why I'm super thankful for that. And
Awesome.
we've had just like the film from Tel Aviv is hilarious. I'll probably show you that one as well. So it's great, man. And before I show you any of that, I want to kind of talk about the technical aspects of your film. So
Sure.
what did you shoot on?
So, another one of the joys of being a wedding photographer and, being in that industry, especially my wife being in the industry for 10 years plus, we've got the best gear. So we got our hands, we have at any given time, we're shooting 2 cameras each on the day. So we have 4 cameras and they're all Canon 5D Mark IVs. So we're shooting Canon 5D Mark IV DSLRs, and then our glass is amazing. We've got some, obviously you've got our tank lenses, our 2.8, 24-70 Canons. We've got 2 of those. Those are our workhorse. We call them the tank lenses because you can drop them, you can fumble them, mismanage them, and they still work. Yeah. And they get everything. They're 2.8, so they're great and moderately bright to.
Because you almost, before you even put the camera with that particular lens, is you know your look already.
Yes.
There's
and
so
you
much
as Alex, in the wedding industry, you can't show up. You just can't show up with run of the mill, even like a Rebel and just some sort of like crop censored weird lens.
No, even for image, even if you create the best image in wedding history, you can't turn up. It's kind of superficial in some ways. You can't turn up with a pocket cam. Obviously, you wouldn't anyway, but it's almost like this subconscious thing about Canon and Sony, especially Sony now, because they're doing very well. And we can always have a discussion about Sony versus Canon. And Canon colors for me, they obviously rock.
Yes.
Out of the camera, like Nadia, who's our content curator, and she's co-producing the podcast with me now. She just bought a Canon camera and she was just doing pieces to camera. She's worked out a couple of hacks so she can use it as a full webcam now for Zoom. Oh, and I totally agree with being able to shoot that. And my little question about, I'll talk obviously about the sound, which is obviously 50% of the film for me, is how did you, is it a crop on full frame on 4K? So how did you shoot in HD? What was the score with that?
Yeah,
your film looks lovely.
Thank you. It's not 4K. It can now the 5D Mark IV can shoot 4K, but it's just such a.
Is it like 1.5 crop or something like that?
I don't even, to be honest, I don't know that I know the answer to that, because when it comes to like I know crop sensor lenses with the Rebels. I do want to go back 1 second. I didn't mean to say the Rebel is the crap camera to shoot weddings. You can pull it off, and that should not change anybody's mind on buying a Rebel. And you should go out and buy a Rebel, especially if you're a beginning filmmaker, because they're good cameras to start with. What I'm saying is, when you're in the industry for over 10 years, you still shouldn't be showing up for after 10 years with a Rebel. You should be showing up with something in the
absolutely, yeah. You're stepping up your game, yeah.
Yeah, but that doesn't at all level the fact that these Rebel they're incredible cameras. I have a Rebel for the field stuff. Like if I'm, sometimes, I do a lot of hunting in Canada, and sometimes I'm bringing
awesome, yeah.
So I'll bring the Rebel with me and I'll put this, $3,000 lens on it, and it does do great. It does do it justice. So that I just wanted to.
No, I respect that, and people will understand what you said, yeah.
Yeah. So and then what we were saying, shoot.
So you were shooting on a 5D with the tank lenses.
Yeah. So, and then, I'm not like a good textbook for the crop. Like I know what crop sensors and crop lens, and I know
you understand your image though.
Yeah. But when I'm reading the back of the camera, I just shift it out and make sure it's, whatever frames and then whatever HD, just cause, and I do the compression. The Mark IV's got a really good, in my opinion, has got a great compression rate built into it, so the files are actually a lot smaller to deal with, and it still looks really nice.
We'll have a chat about that.
Yeah, because for me, like again, we talked about shoot for the edit, and now again, I'm not shooting on a Blackmagic, and I'm not shooting on a Sony A7 III or whatever they are. Like, I'd imagine that the files are probably pretty big, but also the quality you get from those cameras is, like, especially Sony low light. We can talk about that all day long. I know all the videographers that most of them in the GTA and that I know of are all on Sonys, And especially when it comes to that first dance and you've got like 25% room light and you're thinking, okay, now I got to put this thing up to, 6400 ISO or maybe 10,000. I don't know. With a Canon, you're going to get so much digital artifact, but with the Sonys, you don't. I know that the Sonys are incredible for that, but yeah, I just for the film itself though, we just used the one camera and then we flipped from 2 lenses and some of our favorite lenses, and they're by a company called Sigma. And
oh yeah,
and it's the 2 lenses, the ART series, and it's the prime lenses. So, and I use the 35 mil and the 50 mil. The 50 mil is for more of the close up stuff and like the laptop stuff, and the stuff just when you see the intercut from like closer to my face and pull back to the laptop, that's just between the 35 mil lens and the 50 mil lens. But the cool thing is you can go to like 2.0 or 1.8, and I find that it gives that milky, silky, warm film look with the you get the blurry, a little bit blurry portrait-y vibe.
I think the choice for having those lenses, especially for the screen stuff, so the actual scrolling of the newspapers and everything, that's on screen, isn't it?
Yeah, that was just right on my laptop, man.
So the fact that you use those lenses helped you massively, and obviously you know that. But for people that aren't necessarily clued up on those particular lenses, the sharpness and what they do in terms of the focus allowed you to shoot those screens with 100% confidence, right?
Yes.
And you knew what you were going to get because, don't have to worry about sharpness or anything like that. So that worked very, very well. And we've had a lot of people that have included iPhones in their films, and as you can attest to, obviously there's other brands of mobile phone, but when you look at the sharpness of the screen and the fact you can shoot it so well, it helps massively. The only thing I don't like about when you see an iPhone in a feature film, they're actually making a real call, is the black screen next to someone's face.
Right.
Like when you watch a film in the 90s or the early 2000s, went to a mobile phone, then you can the phone's on, and my brain says, "Oh, they're actually making a call." Mm. Now, if you see an iPhone in a film and it's got light on it or apps, they're not actually making a call.
Right.
So it's a weird disconnect, real weird disconnect. And those lenses are great, man. Just take it back to your lenses. They're such beautiful lenses. Like the 2 or 3 of the films that we've received in the festival, they shot on obviously the very popular 18 to 35s f1.8, and I've used the 35 mil Sigma on a wedding, the exact one you've got, and so happy using it.
Yeah, my go-to is the 50 for portrait, and I do a lot of candid because of my background's film. My wife's she's portrait photography. She's been there, done that for me. I do a lot of the candid work at once the day continues. After I've done working with the groom and doing the groom prep, and the grooms have high-fived and they've fixed their ties, and that when we meet back up and they do ceremony and stuff like that, I've kind of turned into the candid photographer. So the 50 lens is my bread and butter, man. I love that thing, especially 1.8, even 1.6 sometimes, even 1.4 if I want to go for that real,
So
nice.
which is that the Canon lens you've got?
Still the Sigma ART 50.
Oh,
I actually
awesome.
I prefer the Sigma ART 50 Prime over the Canon Prime. I've tried a Canon Prime before, and I just found it wasn't as sharp as, and I know I'm sure there's micro adjustments you can make and the tweaks you can do in the calibration, but for me, because I'm not that much of and my wife is awesome because she knows all this like extreme camera nerd stuff. You want to talk music nerd stuff, I can go till the cows come home. When it comes to camera stuff, I'm pretty limited as the nerd stuff. So I just like to buy a lens, put it on, and it works. I don't want to have to send it in and calibrate 1,000,001 things. I just want to know that it works. And in the wedding industry, it's like you can't tell them to kiss again. So it's the same, it's kind of the same theory. It's like I want to get that kiss and move on. And I never in my life would ever ask someone to kiss again. So I just want the camera lens to go on. And and there's some tweaks that I do with it, but at the end of the day, I want it to work. They're
just tools in the end. Like I like gear videos as much as the next person, and there's a lot of YouTubers I love their content and I love their execution of their videos, but I don't want. Obviously, this is a viewing habit more than I shouldn't really be too much of criticism. I love Marcus Brownlee. I love iJustine. I love these people that have gone out and made a career, but I wish they'd shoot more of their own stuff as well, if you know what I mean. because they're very talented what they do. And obviously that's their focus is gear reviews. And Marcus Brownlee's audio is exceptional. Obviously he's got the highest end microphones and all of that treatment. But it's obviously it's difficult to find, if you want to buy a new lens or something, you kind of almost have this built-in knowledge. And then who do I trust? That's something that's difficult online. Who do I trust? Who's endorsed? Who's not endorsed? Right. And so it's tricky, man. Like, I like to pull apart, how did someone shoot that film? What do they work on? Like, thank God for the likes of Vimeo, where people are more inclined to put what gear they used in the video in a description. And I've bought gear based on that, So this is an old lens, but like not Sony, Jesus, what am I saying? The Canon 40mm Pancake full frame. Yeah. Why didn't Canon make more Pancake lenses that are full frame? Because this is so sharp. I've taken some of my favorite photos with it. And the lens you're coming through to me on is, or I'm the other way around, is a Soviet lens from '83, a year after I was born. It's a Mia. What the hell is it? It's a Mia 20mm 3.5, and I've got it on a focal reducer, so it's actually more like a 2, something like that. And I know this is kicking out for me on that 27mm, and Roger Deakins shoots on a 27mm. Right, if it gets anywhere near the framing I like of some of his stuff, because he's a genius cinematographer, then great. And I'm looking to pull my image apart a bit more, and I wanted more of a vintage look. And when I do my photography stuff, I've got a friend of mine who's an exceptional wedding photographer based in Chester, which is where I am. And he uses all Sigma now, all Sigma. He's got 5D Mark III still, and he shoots on an A7 III. So he's not like brand loyal, but the Sigma lenses, he's like, yeah, don't use anything else now, because the results he's getting are fantastic. And I've used his lenses. I've used the 35 and love it to bits. And I'll just show you, this is a bit of a show and tell. So this is only, like, I wish I had more money to invest on better glass. That's, everything else is the house and all of that, Yeah. So I shoot on relatively low budget cameras, but I bought this is an anamorphic adapter. This is by SLR Magic. So when I do kind of more cinematic stuff, and I shot a wedding in anamorphic, and it was incredible. It was a huge risk, risk. Yeah. Like, imagine you being given a new camera, a new lens, not a lens, but a new tech that is unreliable in a lot of frames, but when you get it right, it looks like magic. But I did an anamorphic. It was a massive risk, and I actually cut my price down quite a bit. And I said to them, "This is how I want to shoot it." It was video. Would you be happy doing that? And they were like, "Yeah, great." I did some test examples, the kind of pre-wedding shoot, walking around the park, whatever, with their kids. And I was so happy because it felt like I was shooting a movie, because it gave me a 239:1 aspect ratio, which is super wide. Yeah. And so they're all tools in the end. I love it to bits. Like I'll show you my favorite piece of kit. This is an old, I can't remember, what is this? Is it here? I hope it is. This is a Helios 58mm. Oh, wow. But it comes in the silver that it came from when I bought it. I like that. I like that a lot. And it's got like this company called Iron Glass Adapters, based in, I think it's the Ukraine. They've become pretty big now. And Marcus Brownlee uses lenses a lot of the time. So it's they coat it in a certain color on the inside to give it a certain look. Ooh. So when you're fully wide open and a couple of stops down, you can see this kind of purple tinge or warm amber tinge. And it's more of a kind of creative thing for doing shorts, that kind of thing. I would never use it on a wedding. But I used it on that anamorphic one though, so I adapted that tiny little lens for anamorphic. A huge risk, but the results, I'll send you a link to it, is it was great. And yeah, it all is just tools in the end, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and again, my hat's off to you, mate, for anyone who does video in the wedding world. I always just, I'll look over at them during speeches, during ceremony, especially during vows, and you just see there's just a little extra sweat coming off the forehead during those parts, because you just know that they're just, they've got their shot, but as well as I, the film can look good, but if it sounds bad,
Yeah,
you're in
I
trouble.
100%. And the biggest thing is about having the unknown of switching to Blackmagic for me is before the current firmware update, if the camera went off, you lost the recording of what you had, so you don't have the recording. Now, when you, because I shoot everything raw, I know that's insane for video. It's insane. Thankfully, Blackmagic brought out B-Raw or BRAW, their own RAW, and it's compressed, but it looks amazing. It still has all the controls as raw, like raw photos.
That's good.
Which I thank them for. But when I was shooting the last wedding that I did, I can't remember when that was. I think it was December, something like that. I always do I call it the Last Supper shot. You know, when you have a long table, and then it's just perfectly framed. You know, I'm lower, I'm the same height as the person standing off, whatever. So it's always the same frame because I love it so much. And then now I always have someone else doing the cutaways of the audience because I want those reactions.
Right.
So especially when you're working on a small crew, and the biggest fear is the camera going off. So I always split the clip.
Yeah,
and it's so much fear involved because I have separate audio on the tables. You know the score. I have the separate audio on the tables. I don't lapel anyone during the speeches because of how complicated. You know, you can't have 5 lapels on if you're doing big speeches.
Impossible.
And I end up I give the responsibility to the best man, and I put fucking pressure on him. I say, right, I've got this Zoom audio recorder. All you've got to do, no stress. I'll call him Stephen, the best man in this scenario. Yeah. Now, Stephen, can you make sure you point this? And then you can see the sweat on him looking at the audio recorder. So it's happened a few times, but and it always works. And this one particular detail I mentioned during the wedding meeting, saying that audio requirements. This is my only, like the score when you're trying to sell yourself as a photographer or a videographer, you want to come across the best way, but I've just got a couple of things that need to be agreed on. So that's in a contract. That audio recorder responsibility on the best man is in my contract.
Oh, really? That's amazing.
So it's like it's because of the stress, you know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for me, the big oh my God moments are, and again, because I'm an audio guy and have been for years, the big moments for me are watching speeches, and then when a mic, they'll be like, and John, and then you look over at the DJ who didn't even know he was, in charge sometimes of the MC of audio. Usually that's house job or whatever, whoever job it is. Yeah. And then you look over at at maybe one of the newbie or the newer videographers, and you just look at them and you know that they didn't put a field recorder at the booth, and you know that they've only been taking a dry signal from the board, and you know that the board signal is screwed. And and that's like, you can just hope to God that hopefully it's a auxiliary that doesn't have anything to do with the output of the home But you and I both know it usually is, and it's like, I always say to Aaron, my wife, I'll say, that videographer better get creative with that speech and that editing. Yeah. How they're going to fix that mic.
The worst thing I've ever seen, I'll tell you an audio reference that completely agrees with that, is the worst visual thing is when I first doing a wedding, was it Jesus Christ, almost 20 years ago, was someone else's wedding that he had all these mini DVs of the wedding. I thought, I've not got the time. Would you be interested? Yeah, you're going to pay me. I'll edit all together. If it's a load of shit, fine. But pay me. So I think it was like £400 or something, my first wedding. And it was just an edit. And I said, I'm charging you this much because you've waited 10 weeks. You've not told the bride anything. I assume responsibility. And I took pride in it. And during the speeches, there's a fucking balloon in front of someone's face that's giving a speech. I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with that? So I ended up creating cutaways or reframing the Last Supper shot, as I call it, and then I think I ended up creating or using cutaways from outside and creating this really nice montage. I was like, that's the biggest fucking plaster I've ever put on anything.
That's brilliant though, man.
And cutaways are your godsend, you know what I mean? Yes, if you're on your own. Oh yeah, and audio wise, something I can totally attest to is doubling up or trebling up on your audio. I went to shoot at the House of Commons, which is obviously the government building in the UK.
Yeah, we have House of Commons in Canada too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Allegiance to Your Majesty.
And so I went to shoot there, and some of the best looking cutaways I've ever shot, because I'm on. When you look at the House of Commons and Big Ben and all of that, you'll see on that side of the river, on North Bank, I think it is, there is like a canopy tent area, which is like the terrace area of the House of Lords. That's where I filmed. So I had to get vetted by the government. I had to check, and all. You can imagine what it took.
Oh yeah, the background
Armed guards. I've never seen bomb barriers like it, because I hadn't been around that building for years, and it was insane. So this was, I think this was February this year I shot it. So I'm super proud that I went to do it. And no one else wanted to do it at work. Yeah, I'll fucking do it, because I know the cutaways I'm going to get. That's how I thought. If I get two good looking cutaways, like it's something from a Michael Caine Ipcris file film,
yeah,
then I'll take that. That's my payment. That's how I saw it.
Nice.
So when I went to shoot it, this terrace, and there's two lords there, the security, but they're all dressed as waiters. So the security are actually dressed as waiters at tables. It's very clever how they did it. And it can't be posted anywhere. So it is used on showreel when I go to do work, but it can't actually be legally shown on, because you can't show favoritism. If you shoot there, you can't show favoritism to production companies. Gotcha. It can only be used on like two websites, a government one and another site for this disease control thing I was shooting for. And when I went there, it was great. Right, doubling up. I'm on my own. I've got a monopod with feet. I've got a Blackmagic camera with I think it's a 24-105 f4 Sigma. That was the one I was using. I think it was that one. Yeah.
Nice.
I thought I've got my range. I've got a EOS R. It shoots in HD. I'm not gonna worry about the 4K. I'll use that as the wide. But my safety is shoot on your own. Have a fucking wide shot of the speaker and all the people and the terraces outside. I thought, right, I'm going to shoot it in RAW. That's another tricky thing. I'm going to shoot the whole thing in RAW, leave that camera doing its thing. And then audio, right. I contacted the person there, and they said, oh, we've got a soundboard you can plug into. I'm like, yeah, I'm not fucking using that.
yeah. That's the first no.
Got this huge rack, almost in this kitchen area. I'm like, it was like really odd, because obviously the building's so old.
Oh, yeah.
It was in this little room, and I thought, okay, I had a Zoom H6 that I borrowed. Something, the bigger one with the like 4 inputs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a beast. It's got great preamps.
That's the thing about preamps, and that's the thing people don't understand even what a preamp is, right? When you get into that world, that's a whole nother thing too. Because you can have a great mic, but you can have a terrible interface and terrible preamps, and it would still not, it would not efficiently pump the mic properly. So.
Exactly. So I had that plugged in, and based on my knowledge of all the gear, I thought, right, I'm fucking covered. I felt like a ninja. I had a backpack. I had a roller bag on 2 wheels. This is the only way I was doing it. I was on a train to London from Chester, which is 2 hours and 20 minutes away. Right, when I arrive, I've got about an hour to get in. It takes an hour to get through security, because they actually do checks on you when you're there. They have to X-ray everything. The room is gorgeous. I will send you stills, Ian. I'll send you stills in the building. I'm super proud of the cutaways, and the video turned out great. When I did the audio, I had the Zoom set up in another room. I thought, right, can't be stressing about that. I'll double up. I've got a Rode Wireless Go set I've just bought. Nice, simple, great gear. I love Rode stuff.
Yeah, Rode's great.
And I clipped it on the mic stand on the front, and then they've got the official mic. I think it was a Shure MB50. The tiny one, the condenser one. For doing recordings like you would record music on.
Like, it's just like, do you think it's a 57 or a 58?
It was really small. Yeah, you'd normally see a singer singing to on.
It's an SM58 probably.
So they had that.
SM57.
So they had a good setup. So I knew based on that and seeing what was in the rack, it was great. But when the mic was taken off, and it was on, I think it was on a wireless kit, there was some sort of combo it had. So mine was still clipped on the stand. I thought, shit, there's a roving mic situation. As soon as they went under the fucking old lights, you heard all this the audio. And I was going, what the fuck? But because he stood so close to the stand, all I did was, I thought, right, I know I can cut away. I'll walk into shot, bend the mic thing and use my little wireless Go, which has a mic built in, and then point it to him. And then when I walk back, I knew I wouldn't be in the edit. I'd be in the close up, but I wouldn't be in the wide because of where I set it up. So you know what you're shooting.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I was so happy I wasn't part of that audio setup, because people were getting really pissed off. And people start to itch and get pissed off.
Oh yeah.
And then when I listened back to my audio, none of that shit.
Nice.
It was a little bit quiet. I massaged the audio a little bit. I was so happy. And that's why I think it was early wedding experience and that experience. I'm like, yeah, I know I'm doing the right thing.
That's, I think, what weddings will teach you too. And, I talk about this with videographers and photographers all the time is you can shoot a beer bottle and, spray it with some mist and sit there and have a cinematographer pivot a light and stuff and, turn the fog machine on and off for environment. But when you're in a wedding, man, you got to think on your feet fast, and you got to come up with problem solving. Like it's the punk rock. You got to become a punk rock problem solver in that moment. You know what I mean?
I actually thrive in that. I love that.
Same. Me too, man. I love it.
Day before is the worst day, like to be with me. Like when Vicky, my fiance, when she knows I'm going on a shoot, she knows that things will work out okay because I can think on my feet. But the day before, I'm like, oh my God, I'm stressing out.
Yeah.
Even though I'm fully prepped, it's always the same. It just, I
wish I could. Right? It's the what if scenarios of like, okay, what if this happens? If this happens, what if this happens? But because your toolbox is so expanded now, and like you can think on your feet like that, that's again, it'll always come back to, why don't you guys do video? And I say, because audio. And then the conversation is over. All the videographers are like, oh yeah, yes, okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. When you get asked that kind of thing, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Audio's the worst. That's why when I know the mic I'm putting, you can almost picture it like it's, when, this is a really obscure reference, but the Xbox 360, the Kinect, when you see it at night or under night vision, you can see all the dots.
The what?
The Kinect, is it the Xbox 360 that has the little camera on top, so you can, it's like the Nintendo Wii. So
I think I've heard it. I just want you to understand that my video game knowledge goes as far as Super Nintendo. And then
That's great. That's genius.
It's like Xbox I know of, but I think I know what you're talking about. Though.
So these thousands of dots that are sent out and knows where your body is.
Right.
It's like my understanding of my audio gear on those tables. So I know my setup is going to capture all the audio I'll ever need.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like your understanding of how mic patterns, that kind of thing. You know exactly how to act around these things. And
you're still awash the day before. You're all worried and you get worked up. Yeah, of course. That's the jitters too, though, because it's, again, you're shooting arguably the most important day of these people's lives, next to their birth and then maybe some sort of family.
Absolutely.
It's the responsibility is just it's huge.
It's crazy, isn't it? So we're gonna end just on a very good note. I'm gonna show you one of the animations.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. You guys must have got some pretty cool. I was curious with the Toronto one versus any film fest really, but you must have got there. I'm sure you've had to categorize, because I always wonder how people would do this in a festival, because I'm sure that you're going to get some that's it's going to be here's some entry level stuff, and then you're going to get some stuff that's pretty darn good, and then I'm sure you're going to get top notch stuff, and it must be interesting to have to sort of dissect and sort of categorize. I've always been curious about that kind of part of
So your this number doesn't mean anything. I totally agree. Like we've chosen a comedy award because we've got so many comedies. It all depends on how many. I would always have dreamt of a horror category, but I don't know if we've got enough. So.
Oh, I would have. Yeah. I thought about doing something like that, like horror. There was a couple of
man. Please do it. We'll talk about it. I love it. I love it. So let me find it. I've been able to speak to people that have been in some of my favorite TV shows and movies that have worked in the behind the scenes, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So it's been a really cool. I spoke to someone about working on Millennium, which is the series alongside the X-Files. So it's been a really interesting time for us.
Are you a Heroes fan? Did you watch Heroes?
Yeah, I love Heroes, man. Yeah.
You watch Heroes Reborn?
Are you in that?
Yeah.
No, I've not seen it.
I have one line. I have one line, and I play a chef. Yeah.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, that's so. My missus is gonna be very happy with that.
Yeah. I like I said, I was an actor for almost a decade and a half in Toronto, and did a lot of. I was on a Nickelodeon show for a few years back in 2005, 2008.
Oh, cool.
Did a really fun movie, HBO Canada. Had some pretty heavy hitters in it. Emmanuel Shrieky, she was from Entourage, and Jason Ritter, John Ritter's son. They were in this movie. I just had a little bit.
Wow, that's very cool.
It's been a fun career. I did a couple of stints on this a kid show called Odd Squad. It's this like they solve problems with math, and it's kind of this fun little kid sort of.
That's a very positive message. That.
Yeah. It's.
You know,
you wouldn't think that you wouldn't even realize a show could be based around it, but they'd use mathematical problems to solve cases, and they're always on the job. And I got a couple of actor roles in that too, and
oh, very cool
stuff. So
yeah, let me just check my camera. Barely 1 sec.
Yep. I'm surprised my light's been going on this long. It's just a battery-powered light. I didn't think it was going to go.
I'm still recording, thankfully.
Nice.
Worst case scenario, the Zoom's recording anyway, so that's not a problem. So you should have seen me day one when I recorded the first podcast with this guy from Bordeaux in France. The stress level, I had audio recorder here and everything. So
like a backup to the backup.
Oh my God, yeah. It's like you're planning to be on a submarine. You know, those redundancies, like on a spaceship or something. So I'm going to share. This is called "Things a Fly Can Do in Isolation."
Yeah.
A UK-based animation, and this is his first animation. He's a student in the UK, so let me show you that. Oh yeah, a friend of mine. Have you seen Justice League?
Of course, yeah. And they got the Snyder Cut, right?
Oh yeah, I've not spoken to my friend who's in it. She's got 4 lines of dialogue in the film. She's the Russian mother in the house that the Flash saves. And she was the person that told me 6 years before anyone else of what Kevin Spacey was like. She worked at the Old Vic where he was the main guy. And she said to me, there's going to be at least 20 people that come out about Kevin Spacey. She told me this 6 years before it came out. Because I went to see England versus Poland, because she's Polish, and England versus Poland in the UK. And because there was a special bond in the UK between the Polish and the English, because Polish fighter pilots fought in the Battle of Britain. And in the Battle of Britain, you would always think British pilots, RAF, but there's Polish fighters. So during this ceremony, England versus Poland in this World Cup match in London, the Polish fans were mixed with the English. It was a real special moment you hardly see. And then the next day we had a few drinks and she told me about Spacey 6 years before anyone else knew about it.
Oh my
God. And it was right. I texted her saying, you were right. I said, yeah. And she said, wait for a few more. There's going to be about 30 in total. What happened? About 30 people came out about it.
Yeah.
So can you see my... No, you can't see that yet. Screen 1, share audio. Share. You should see a spinning wheel on a black screen.
Yep, got her. Yep, nice.
Okay.
Nice.
So there's some interesting choices, and I spoke to Ollie, who's only like 17, something like that, and like some very mature choices in terms of where your focus is, shot choices, composition, that kind of thing. So yeah, man, there's some real talent worldwide, and in Canada especially. For our festival, we've been very lucky that we've had the knock-on effect of what the guys Stephen Mann was doing at the ISFF. We've had a very positive knock-on, especially for your film as well. Like your films, all right, I'll kind of rework that and launch it in the UK. So yeah, thanks, man, and we really appreciate being on the podcast as well.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, Alex. I'm excited for you guys. I'm excited. It was the 30th, right? I think is that you guys are doing.
No, 20th.
20th. Okay.
Yeah, we put some extra pressure on ourselves. We didn't want to let it drag on past the 30th or past the end of the month because we didn't think it was fair on people that have submitted, and it's such a long process anyway.
Yeah. Oh, that's excellent. So I mean, we're kind of days away here. That's fantastic.
A week on Saturday. Yeah. next week, the chap who's doing the edit on the main thrust of the video, I'll check in with him tomorrow, and if he's not done that, then I'll be doing all of it. You know what I mean? So you can imagine that conversation. Because we want to do it the right way, and especially when we've had such a monumental influx of films and the showreel of we're going to include some of the showreel stuff of the directors duo in the next couple of days for our new judge. Then if we get a couple of more judges for like guest judges, then we'll be ecstatic. So we just want people to have an idea of what these people have done. And the two judges, like Vance Burberry and the directors duo, I obviously can't pronounce their surnames because they've got some crazy surnames. So all that news will be effective. And we want people to realize that it's what they've done is really meant a lot to us, sending them to us. And then that's why I made such a good point, made a point about your film, is that you cater that to the UK. And I love the fact that you've done that. So yeah, Ian, thank you very much, mate. That's it's wonderful to speak with you, and hopefully speak with you soon in the future, because you've been a fantastic guest on the podcast, man.
Anytime, brother. I look forward to it, and look forward to all the films and the fest.
And awesome. We're going to send out the laurels after we close as well. So if you want to add that to the one that's on the TV, that you're more than welcome to.
Well, just that thing. Yeah, no problem. I'd be honored. Yeah,
man. Awesome, man. So say hello to your wife for me. And I think if you can send me a link to your kind of wedding company,
absolutely.
This podcast will be seen by a lot of Canadians as well. So any little help I know you've got a lot of weddings on, it's next year, but any little help we can be to, progress work, that kind of thing, we're very happy to do that as well. And anything you want us to show past the point of the 20th on the festival, we're showcasing our filmmakers, not just by their films, but their work outside of things as things get better for everyone.
Amazing. In the interim, you should, as a filmmaker, you should check out that video by the band Walk Off the Earth. I'll be there. You should check out that video because that's some of my favorite acting in it. And it's a fantastic song, great single. It was a chart topper single for them in many countries. So check that out. And yeah, man, it's been a blast. I had a great time chatting with you, brother. It's awesome.
Yeah, top man, and keep on rocking, man.
All right.
And the best compliment, your audio was excellent, by the way, on your film.
Yes, thank you. I love it.
I should have said that straight away, but it was, and that's something we didn't talk about. What I'll probably email you about your audio as well, because it was really clean, man, and it was kind of seamless, and I didn't necessarily think about it. That's the best thing, that's
the best thing. Yeah. If you're not thinking about it, it doesn't take, because
there's one or two films like an actor called Declan. I can't remember his surname. He's based in Toronto. His his performance is amazing, and his wife's first time in it. But just some of the cuts, the audio, there's a couple of technical issues, but I didn't necessarily hold that against anyone. But yeah, yours is one of the better sounding ones, man, for sure.
I just get stoked hearing that. That's awesome, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So we'll keep in touch, man. And if you want to send me a headshot, or not necessarily a headshot, a photo you prefer, as you've probably seen the posters of some of the other guys and girls we've advertised about their episode in advance, we'd love to receive that. So you can send that on Instagram or on to the email account.
Yeah, I'll just toss you an email there. And then anything you guys have advertisement wise, and if you need help, let me know. I'd be more than honored to help, help promo and all that good stuff on my socials. I got off Instagram there for about a week because I needed I needed a decompress, as I think a lot of people did. But and I'm actually trying to stay away. If it's business wise and work wise and artistic wise, I'm into it. But I've been trying to keep personal life low on that kind of stuff. So, but man, when it comes to this kind of stuff, I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. And again, anything I can do to help big it up. And all
I appreciate that. And I'm on the same. We're on the same wavelengths. I'll give you a fist bump if I could, because the social media stuff is just purely about work for me now. Or it's about the flooring. If you follow my personal account, it's just about the flooring I've had done. So it's not only about that. So Ian, you've been a great guest, man, and keep on rocking, dude.
Thanks, brother. You too.
All right, see you soon.
Later.
Bye-bye.